I will now call upon the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Mfeketo.
Honorable Chairperson of the House, Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee on International Relations and Cooperation, honorable members that are here, diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, more importantly, a special welcome to learners who are here with us today. I'm sure in just a few years' time, you'll be sitting in these benches. But don't copy everything that we do today. This year marks what would have been the 100th birthday of the liberation struggle stalwart and the longest-serving president of the African National Congress, Oliver Reginald Tambo, South Africa's chief diplomat in exile. O.R. Tambo laid the foundation of our foreign policy and was passionate about our solidarity with the oppressed masses of the South in general and people of the Asian and the Middle East regions in particular. After 50 years of occupation of Palestinian territories this year, the Palestinians continue to be deprived of the most basic human rights. We stand by the Palestinian people. In particular, we remember prisoners who are on the 37th day of hunger strike, demanding to have access to basic human rights that they are not given. And most of those prisoners have never been brought to court. They are prisoners who are in detention, some of them for 17 years, in detention without trial. We continue, it makes us think, it makes us remember where we come from. We continue to reaffirm our solidarity with the people of Palestine and call upon the international community to find a lasting solution to this long-standing conflict. Honorable members, we will continue to advocate for freedom and justice in support of the people of Western Sahara. This foreign policy position to support Western Sahara is founded in our own experiences of struggles against colonialism and subjugation. Ever since we took a decision to recognize the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, South Africa has continued to lobby for the Sahrawi cause on all multilateral forums that we participate in. We wish to reiterate the urgent need for renewed efforts to facilitate an early resolution of the Western Sahara issue and call on the UN General Assembly to determine a date for the holding of the self-determination referendum for the people of Western Sahara. Equally, we urge the UN Security Council to fully assume its responsibilities in restoring the full functionality of the UN mission for referendum in Western Sahara. This is vital for managing the ceasefire and the organizing of the referendum in the Western Sahara, as well as addressing issues of human rights violation in that country. We will continue to mobilize the international community to call for the acceleration of the referendum on self-determination. Despite the above challenges, we believe that the readmission of Morocco to the AU presents an opportunity for all of us to work within the collective of this august body to resolve the Western Sahara issue. With regard to the Asian countries, we believe that it is in our best interest to continue strengthening our relations, specifically in the area of economic diplomacy. The International Monetary Fund classified the Asia-Pacific region as a global leader in economic growth, with a projected 5.5% in 2017 and 5.4% growth in 2018. The same, however, cannot be said about the Middle East region, which together with the North Africa experienced a low growth of up to 2.7% in 2016. What is important in this regard is to note that economic growth has been negatively affected by ongoing conflicts in Syria, Palestine, Yemen, Iraq, as well as constraint in oil production. It is therefore crucial that we continue advocating for a sustainable and peaceful resolution to the conflict in the Middle East. We engage with partnership in various regions at the bilateral and multilateral levels, ladies and gentlemen. This is the basis for our membership of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. As you are aware, IORA is the brainchild of the former President Nelson Mandela. He viewed its establishment as a renewal of historic trade relations. In his address to the National Assembly of Republic of Mauritius in September 1998, Madiba said, and I quote, "With the end of colonial era, new conditions allow us to reach out to our Indian Ocean neighbors and revive ancient links of trade and interaction for mutual benefit. South Africa will, in honor of our icon leader, assume the IORA chairship when the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation hosts the 17th meeting of the IORA Council of Ministers later this year in Durban. At this meeting, South Africa will take over the chairship from Indonesia for a 2-year period, and the United Arab Emirates will become the vice chair. The ocean economy is a strategic focus area for South Africa, the African Union, and IORA member states. We will seek to align the activities of IORA to the 2050 Africa's integrated maritime strategy in areas such as maritime security, capacity building, skills development, and technology transfer in areas of ocean economy. We are also working in partnership with Oman to build the port of Soha in that country. This port will enhance economic connectivity and bolster trade and investment between countries in the Indian Ocean Rim. Ladies and gentlemen, during the second Investing in Africa Forum on the 7th September 2016 in Guangzhou, China, a memorandum of understanding between PRASA and China Communication Construction Company was signed. This will enable us to explore various infrastructure development initiatives, including the Moloto Rail Development Corridor linking Gauteng and Mpumalanga provinces. Furthermore, we have just concluded the South Africa-China high-level people-to-people exchange mechanism this past month, which aims to deepen mutual understanding between the people of South Africa and China and to enhance people-to-people exchanges and cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Red Fort Declaration between South Africa and India.
Honorable Deputy Minister, round up.
Okay. This declaration was signed by former President Mandela during his state visit in India in '97 and reaffirmed the strategic partnership between the two countries. The previous year, 2016, witnessed the official visit of the Prime Minister Mondi to South Africa, and this visit was successful. In conclusion, Chair, we are committed to enhancing efficiency, accountability, and cost effectiveness in the pursuit of our foreign policy objective through implementation of the Foreign Service Bill. This bill has been presented to Parliament, and we welcome the comments and guidance of the Portfolio Committee in this regard. We will accordingly engage in further consultations in order to enhance key
Honorable
elements
Deputy
of the
Minister,
bill
your time is up.
to ensure an enabling legislative framework is created during this financial year. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. I will now call of International Relations and Cooperation, Mr. L.T. Landers.
Honourable House Chair, Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable Ministers, Honourable Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, I gladly follow on the Honourable Dudley's address. She seems to have a greater grasp of matters of international relations than other honourable members. I'm humbled to address you on this important occasion, and this session coincides with Africa Day, as has already been mentioned, which is designed to commemorate the establishment of the Organization of African Unity, which is now the African Union. We also commemorate the centenary of the birth of O.R. Tambo. O.R.'s legacy remains that of a founding father and one of the greatest patriots and diplomats of this world, our continent, and our country. We pay tribute to this giant by continuing to vigorously implement the foreign policy principles which he fought and died for and embedded in the ANC's DNA, that is Pan-Africanism, international solidarity with the poor and oppressed, human rights, democracy, good governance, and peace, security, stability, and development on our continent and globally. Honourable members, we are living in a geopolitical and economic environment that is extremely fluid, unstable, and volatile. The effects of this have been the emergence and rapid rise of right-wing, extremist, and demagogic political parties, movements, and leaders globally. This is why South Africa needs to be more vigilant, resilient, and committed to diversify our relations, particularly with other emerging progressive countries and forces of the left, if we want to continue OR's ideals. Honourable members, Honourable Chair, South Africa and Cuba have maintained long-standing relations dating back to the struggle against colonialism, imperialism, and apartheid in Africa. To this end, we remain resolute in our call for the immediate and complete lifting of the US economic blockade against Cuba. We remain grateful that Cubans have, under the most difficult circumstances, continued to provide support to us and the rest of Africa. Since May 2012, over 3,000 South African students have been receiving medical training in Cuba, and thus far 520 South Africans have graduated over the past few years and are now providing critical healthcare services to our poor and rural communities. In addition, about 800 will be returning to South Africa in 2018 to finalize their last year of study in South Africa. As a small contribution of our gratitude, we entered into an economic assistance package with Cuba in 2012. I can confirm that we are making progress in its implementation and that our agreement has been extended until November 2017. We have also consciously strengthened our relations with the African diaspora, and we've undertook high-level visits to El Salvador and Honduras early this year. We will continue to visit other diaspora communities later this year with the intention of reaching out to them. Honourable members, we continue to monitor developments in the Americas, including the change in administration in the United States and its impact on the geopolitical economy. Having said that, we remain committed to deepening our cooperation with the United States in multilateral and bilateral issues. We also continue to enjoy strong economic ties with the European Union. Despite the challenges to our country's trade balances, exports to the European Union have been increasing steadily over the years. We will also forge ahead in strengthening relations with our non-EU partners in Europe, such as the Russian Federation, Turkey, and Azerbaijan, to name but a few. In this regard, the South Africa-Russia Intergovernmental Trade and Economic Committee was convened in November 2016 to review progress in various areas of cooperation. In the current financial year, we will continue to explore opportunities in numerous areas in this region, including skills development, vocational training and scholarships, offshore oil and gas exploration, aquaculture and ocean governance, ports development, tourism promotion, alternative energy technology, water resource management, and additional trade and investment. Honorable House Chair, the people of African descent continue to suffer from multiple forms of discrimination. As a result, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed the years 2015 to 2024 as the International Decade on the People of African Descent under the theme Recognition, Justice and Development. We commend the United Nations for this initiative and look forward to participating in that program. To this end, South Africa continues to lead United Nations efforts aimed at the promotion and protection of human rights of people of African descent. At the 34th session of the Human Rights Council adopted a resolution calling on the United Nations General Assembly to establish a forum on people of African descent. Going forward, via the G77 plus China, South Africa will lobby the annual United Nations General Assembly to indeed establish this forum. South Africa also continues to play its leadership role in combating all scourges of racism. We led the process of the Human Rights Commission Council during the 34th session earlier this year in adopting resolutions reviewing the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. The Intergovernmental Working Group on the Effective Implementation of the Durban Declaration and Programme of Action, and the elaboration of complementary standards to the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the Western Sahara question must be urgently resolved. We commend the countries that have recently implemented the EU court decision to ensure that Morocco does not continue benefiting from Sahrawi resources. Two events are of particular significance in this regard. Firstly, a bulk vessel was detained in Port Elizabeth. The NM Cherry Blossom is stuck at anchor 4 kilometers off Port Elizabeth Harbour. The ship is carrying what is referred to as conflict minerals, specifically an estimated 54,000 tons of phosphates valued at $5.2 million. The shipment was destined for New Zealand and was being exported by a Moroccan state-owned company in contravention of the order by the European Court of Justice handed down in December 2016. The vessel stopped in South African waters for provisioning, during which time lawyers acting for the authorities from the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic initiated legal proceedings against the NM Cherry Blossom. A court order resulted in the detention of the cargo aboard the ship. We welcome this development, as we do a similar development in the Panama. The Sahrawi representative to New Zealand and Australia said, and I quote, "The export of these non-renewable resources from a place under armed occupation is a violation of well-settled principles of international law. It is a war crime." Of course, these developments beg the question, why does New Zealand seek to purchase conflict minerals to the detriment of the attainment
Round up in 1 minute.
of independence of the Sahrawi people? We reiterate, the sooner Morocco recognizes the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic's right to self-determination, the better. Chairperson, I was privileged and honored to form part of an official delegation, more than ably led by my colleague, the Honorable John Jeffrey, Deputy Minister of Justice, that presented South Africa's third Universal Peer Review report at the 27th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva last month. It must be noted that almost all of the 102 participating member states commended and congratulated South Africa on the progress and clear commitment to the fulfillment of human rights and freedoms for all who live in South Africa. The President of the Council formally adopted South Africa's third UPR report and set the date for September this year for South Africa's submission of its responses to the recommendations made.
Thank you.
The South African delegation was congratulated on this report. I thank you.
Thank you very much.